Let me begin by making a statement that undergirds everything I will say. By a show of hands, who's ever heard of the phrase the glass ceiling? Show of hands. All right, fantastic. So I believe that the glass ceiling is now an outdated metaphor. I believe it's no longer relevant. I believe it's no longer appropriate. I believe it's time for a new metaphor. Now that might sound crazy to some of you for me to say that, but understand this, that for the past 30 years or more, the glass ceiling has been the long-standing proxy, the long-standing phrase for all things having to do with barriers to advancement for minorities, for women, for people with disabilities. That has been the mantra. And arguably, it's the reason why we have events like the Empower series, which prompts me to invite you to answer the following question. And I want you to think about this. What do you think was the ultimate goal back in 1986 when we defined the glass ceiling and designed several programs, strategies, speaker series, et cetera, to shatter the glass ceiling? What do you think was the ultimate goal? You know, if we could go back and talk to employees and entrepreneurs alike in 1986 and ask them, what do you hope to see 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now? What do you hope to see accomplished by defining a glass ceiling and shattering a glass ceiling? What do you think they would have said? You think the answer would have been to get good jobs with a high income for African Americans? Good jobs with a high income. Do you think that was what they would hope to see 40 years later? Do you think they would hope to see us represented proportionally at the executive levels? That if we're 12% of the population, we're 12% of executives or 12% of successful entrepreneurs. Do you think that would have been their answer? Do you think their answer would have been to have proportional representation in the workplace? That again, if we look at how we are represented in the community, does that reflect itself in the workplace? Could that have been the answer? Or do you think the answer would have been to build wealth within our communities? To have some increase in measure of wealth amongst our people and in our communities? Could that have been the answer to the goal? What do you think would have been their answer? And in fact, more importantly, here in 2017, what's your answer? What do you hope to see 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now because of efforts like the Empower series, because of what you do in your professional worlds with your children? What do you hope to see different in this world 40 years from now as it relates to our advancement in the workplace and in entrepreneurship and et cetera? Well, I'm going to give you my answer to that question of what I believe the ultimate goal was and still is to this day. But before I talk about where I believe we need to go, let me talk about where we've been. Stick with me. 1995, 12 years later, the U.S. Department of Labor established the Glass Ceiling Commission because this issue of the glass ceiling was considered so important to our national future that they wanted to understand the issues and how to design programs to address the glass ceiling. So in 1995, the U.S. Department of Labor found that minority professionals made up less than 2.5% of senior level executives in Fortune 500 companies, less than 2.5%. Now, that was 1995. Much has changed since 1995, right? For example, we are now in greater representation in our society than ever before. 37% of the US population, 37% are now so-called traditional minority groups. African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders. Those same groups will be the majority of our country before the year 2040. And they're already the majority in California, here in Texas, and will be the majority in less than a decade in New York and in Florida. We see that changing demographic across our entire country. What else has changed? We have greater economic wherewithal today than ever before. The African American and Hispanic communities will earn $4.5 trillion in 2017. $4.5 trillion with a T. Are you kidding me? That is decisively more than most countries on this planet. And believe it or not, we are near parity in the workplace today. We are roughly 12% of the population, 11% of the workforce. Near parity. So much has changed. In fact, for the generation of minority students, professionals who are here today, you are better educated, better equipped, and better prepared than any generation before you. You've got top grades from top schools, and many of you graduated at the top of your class. Some of you magna cum laude, others summa cum laude, just a few, thank you Lord, but you still made it through. You know what it's like to be perceived as if you speak for our entire community. That if you're late, we're all late. If you're wrong, we're all wrong. If you're right, you're the exception. At times, you've had to work twice as hard, overcome twice as many obstacles, deal with twice as many hurdles just to be considered equal to your peers. But that's never held you back. Why? Because you are well educated, never duplicated, rarely replicated, quite sophisticated, and very much appreciated for all that you do for our community. You are modern day Jackie Robinsons in a modern day way. Perhaps not as prominent as Jackie Robinson, but you are all blazing trails at your schools, in your places of work, and in your community, whether you know it or not. So I say to you, if you're here this morning, that I take for granted that your game is tight, that you've worked day and night, that you have seldom been wrong, you have almost always had to be right, which makes you like a bright ray of light, or perhaps a rising star about to take flight. In fact, I'm here to say that you are simply out of sight. Why? Because you've proven over and over and over again that you can overcome any plight. To obstacles and barriers you break through with tremendous might, and to sore eyes in our communities, you are a very welcome sight. That's why you keep rising and rising beneath a kite. So I say to you, what a guy named JJ said on a show called Good Times, you are dynamite. Dynamite. So a lot has changed since 1995 because of you, because of the Empower series, because of all of what you've done. But in light of all of what I've shared with you, increased economic wherewithal, increased representation in the population, increased parity in the workplace, despite all of these advances, all these accomplishments, you would be astounded to know where we stand today at the executive levels. From 2.5% in 1995, today we stand at an incredible 3.5%. All that progress, all those programs, all those efforts, 3.5%. Or, if you don't believe me, according to the Social Investment Forum Foundation, and get this, they did a study 10 years after the Glass Ceiling Commission to see what kind of progress we made 10 years later. And here's an excerpt from their report. Their words, not mine. While the number of women at the highest levels increased over the decade, the proportion of executive positions held by minorities was generally unchanged. These results are even more disappointing in the context of increased participation of women and minorities in the workforce. There is ample documentation that 10 years after the Glass Ceiling Commission report, progress toward eliminating glass ceiling barriers has been modest at best. Their words, not mine. Which partly explains why I'm arguing that the glass ceiling metaphor is outdated. Very little has changed. In my opinion, the glass ceiling metaphor was only relevant when we were new to corporate America, new to education, new to nonprofits, new to entrepreneurship, new to government. But think about it, the adjective of glass and the noun of ceiling. Glass implies that you don't see the barriers. Like you just kind of bump up on it and didn't know it was coming. We know the barriers now. We know what the barriers are. And ceiling implies that you can't break through, that you hit a wall. Well, people have broken through. I suspect there's people in this room who have broken through to become principals, to become executive directors, to become entrepreneurs, to become corporate C-suite participants. The list goes on. So we're not dealing with a glass ceiling. We're dealing with something else. The barriers are no longer invisible, they are not impenetrable, and statistically speaking, we are exactly where we were 40 years ago today, from 2.5% to 3.5%. So I say it's time for a new metaphor. I here today, as part of the Empower series, Clifton, I hereby retire and lay to rest the glass ceiling hereby, henceforth, and forevermore. So you gotta be asking, all right, Dr. Pinkett, Rhodes Scholar, Apprentice winner, MIT Ph.D. What is the new metaphor? I'm so glad you asked. I hereby replace the adjective noun of the glass ceiling with the ever-changing game. Yeah. I'm gonna break that down. Some of you are like, where's he going with this? I promise you it'll make sense. If not, then Clifton will fire me. So, ever-changing game. Let's start with game. What's the definition of a game? There's two definitions of game. I'm gonna give them both to you. First definition is furthest from my argument. Second definition is spot on. First definition of a game is any activity engaged in for diversion or amusement. Now that's not what I'm talking about. Anything that is a game for diversion or amusement, meaning being a college student or being a principal at a school or being an entrepreneur, there's nothing amusing or done for diversion about any of that. So that's the furthest. Ask yourself the question, do the adjectives I'm going to give you describe your professional reality? To succeed where you find yourself, school, work, or otherwise, to succeed, does it often involve strategy? Does it often involve rivalry? Does it often involve struggle? Second definition of a game, Merriam-Webster.com. Any activity undertaken or regarded as a contest that involves rivalry, strategy, and struggle that is conducted according to rules. She's shaking her head. She's like, I like that. I like it too. Now, as we're all aware, the rules change. And not only do they change, but the rules for you may be different from the rules for somebody else. And as these rules evolve, hence the ever-changing game. Some of you aren't convinced yet. Give me one more moment to get off my academic soapbox. Given my experience, game makes sense to me because game has become quite popular in our modern vernacular. It is both a noun, he's got game, she's got game. It is also a verb, meaning to cheat. Don't game me, don't game him or her. It's also an adjective, meaning ready and able. I'm game, he's game, she's game. I think back to the games I played back in 1986. Games like Connect 4, Sorry, Uno, Monopoly, Life. Does anybody remember Candyland? Yeah. I know the young folk are like, what you talking about? But who remembers Candyland? I remember Candyland. There we go. That's for the grown folk right there. And inasmuch as the game of corporate America or education or nonprofits or business, like any other professional environment, it is a competition. Let's not be fooled. It is very much a competition, a serious competition. Those games I played in '86, those were serious competitions. I know folk who've lost their best friend off a game of spades or bid whist. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all lost friends off of a game of spades or bid whist. That's real talk. It's a competition. Here's a quote from the book. Bruce Gordon, former Verizon executive who became executive director of the NAACP. Bruce said the following: whatever you choose to do, you will end up playing in one game or another. You may play a corporate game. You may play an education game. You may play a health game. You can play any game. But if you want to be successful, you need to understand the rules of the game. Take it seriously. It's a serious game. Last thing I'll say, the glass ceiling had these associated metaphors of the ladder and individuals climbing the ladder to break through the glass ceiling. That was the metaphor of the glass ceiling. The ladder, climb it, break through. For me, the metaphors of the ever-changing game are the playing field, where you're a part of teams, and the teams work together to help level the playing field for everyone. That to me is a powerful metaphor. Well, whether you agree or disagree with my argument for the ever-changing game, what you will agree is the following: that the challenges for us today are different than the challenges that we faced 40 years ago. And that this is a new era with new opportunities, with new obstacles that need new strategies. And I believe that there is a mindset that undergirds those strategies, and that mindset is the one who thinks like an entrepreneur.